Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Please signify if you can hear me. Great. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Anjola. Welcome, Alice, and welcome, Biyi. It's going to be a very impactful 2 hours from now. And I'm very excited because the conversation is something that I particularly am interested in because many people have the opinion that influencers don't do anything, and some people have the opinion that influencers are really key to marketing. So we have three very interesting speakers here today who have used influencer marketing to achieve various marketing goals for different brands. And I am super excited to engage them in conversations where they will be sharing about their experiences using influencer marketing, right? So today we're talking about influencer marketing mastery, and we have Alice Dako. I'm sorry if I have pronounced that wrong. You can correct me when you take the stage. She's an influencer marketing strategist. We also have Anjola Johnson, a brand and community strategist, and we have Biyi Tudors, the CEO of Tudors Digital. My name is Toluwalope Oyewole, right? I generally do not like to introduce myself, but I guess I have to introduce myself today. I'm the senior social marketing manager at MoneyPoint. So I manage social media marketing, communications, and MoneyPoint. And before MoneyPoint, I started my career as the brand strategist and fresh out of uni at an advertising agency. From there, I moved to GT Bank, where I contributed to a number of campaigns, if I do say so myself, that helps the brand grow product wise and customer wise, customer acquisition, brand awareness, and even PR wise. When we try to, when you work with a bank, it can be very dicey, especially a bank like GT Bank, right? Today, been given the honors to moderate this conversation, and I'm glad that it is something that I'm also very interested in, and also because I've worked with influencers, have good and bad experiences, but also I want to learn from these people that I believe are very vast in what they do. I'll introduce our speakers now. I'll start with Anjola Johnson. If I can just have our bio up so that I can read that. Okay, so I'll start with Alice Dako. Alice is a community builder, an influencer marketing strategist, and a campaign manager with deep expertise in helping brands and content creators grow through the right authentic partnerships. She has led influencer campaigns for global and African brands like AfriX, Google, TransferGo, and TapTapSend, bridging the gap between tech startups, lifestyle brands, and niche creators communities across Africa and the diaspora. As the lead campaign strategist at Creative Agora and the lead creative at CA Seco, she curates educational programs that empowers influencers to monetize their platform and collaborate effectively with brands. With hands-on experience in campaign management, community building, and creator education, Alice is passionate about shaping the future of influencer marketing and guiding creators to build sustainable, impactful careers. If I were you, wherever you are, just be like this because that's a very tight bio. I don't even know when will I ever become like this. Anyways, thank you, Alice, for joining us today. I guess I'll be introducing who next. Please, I'm done with Alice. Please, can I have the next? Okay, today we'll also have Biyi Tudors is a passionate marketing communication strategist with core skills in growth, media, public relations, marketing, and community building. In short, let's just say B is the marketing guru. He does everything, PR, growth, everything. We're going to be speaking with him today, and he has a decade, wow, 10 years of experience helping brands build equity in multiple markets across Africa. And B presently co-creates media magic with global brands through Tudors Digital Limited. Wow. Welcome, Biyi. Thank you for joining us today. I can't wait to share or hear from your wealth of knowledge. Today we also have Anjola. Anjola is a brand and community strategist with a proven track record of driving growth through culturally relevant campaigns, and influencer-led storytelling. Approach in brand building is anything but linear, drawing from culture, CSR, entertainment, music, fashion, and lifestyle to craft strategies that move people and deliver results. At IJGB, please, does that mean I just got back? At IJGB agency, where she leads operation and strategy, Anjola builds brands from the inside out, starting with a brand's core DNA, then shaping an empathetic identity and integrated experiences that lead to both brand love and business impact. She has led growth focused campaign for brands like Okta, Fidelity Bank, Juicy Way, and Meristem. Our work transforms cultural relevance into measurable growth, helping brands become not just seen but truly felt. Welcome, 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 Angela. I'm glad to have all of you here. As I've mentioned, but before we get right into it, right, just like it's some sort of icebreaker, right? I'm going to share mine. Then I also want to hear from all of you because I find that most marketing people or most people that hold jobs across different marketing roles never ever started with marketing in mind. For me, I studied basic medical sciences. I was a physiologist. I graduated with BSc physiology. Obviously, when the reality of life hits me, I found myself in a marketing agency fresh out of uni NYSC, right? And how I got my job, very funny, right? I just finished NYSC. I was staying with my sister in Abuja then. She had gone to work. I was the only one in the apartment. I'd opened a bank account with Keystone, and then they just sent me um a flyer via their email blast saying there was going to be a program. I just like, you know what? I'm not doing anything. Let me just go, right? And I went there, and one of the media guys or one of the speakers happened to be the owner of a media agency called Rage Media. I don't know if you've heard of that before in Abuja. And when he was done, I just walked up to him and told him, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to work for you. And he said, come and see me. I'm sure he was dazzled himself because he's like, who is this girl? Why do you think I would employ you? And guess what? Well, I went to him the next day, he employed me, and I built my career from there because he put me in strategy and I was able to grow from there. I grew from an intern to a brand strategist in about a year and 6 months. Then I left there, I went to the So I really want to hear from you guys. I guess Alice will go first. Alice, how did you find yourself in marketing? Was this something you always wanted to do, or was it just life trees at you and you started? So please let me hear from you.
Hi everyone. Sorry, have a bit of a cough, so in case my voice
Oh,
is weird.
sorry.
So, I think I've always known that I was going to work in the creative space. Was not
Oh,
I
cool.
wasn't sure if it was going to be marketing directly, but I've always known I was going to work in the creative space. So, I mean, I started my journey out as a columnist for 360 North, and a couple of people used to write for the late Tosin Bucknor. Um, I think from there, it just started naturally. Somebody contacted me from, Newton and David and said, "Oh, I like what you do. Can you come up with like content strategy and all of that?" I had to do my research. I actually wanted to do like, I wanted to be like a screenwriter, because I used to love writing scripts. UX writing.
Is it me or Alice? Alice's network is kind of shaky right now. Okay, Alice is off. I'm guessing she has network issues. Okay, Alice is back, right?
Yeah, sorry. Hmm. Okay, so yeah, it's just like that. I think I've always been in marketing. I just love creativity. I love to
Cool,
work with
cool, cool.
creatives. I love being a creative myself. So from there, I started out as a content strategist, worked up to like I think a brand strategist. All through this while I was in school, I was learning like I was actually learning marketing, not like in uni, but I had to go study the course, like what's content strategy, what are people using, what like what's this exactly. So I started taking like classes online, some of them offline on YouTube. We had a lot of like Google classes then, so I would go for like as many as I could get my hands on, and they were thankfully very free. So I would attend as many as possible. Google Workspace classes, Google Digital Marketing classes, before I then decided to go to study marketing proper as my postgraduate course. So yeah, I think I've always loved creativity. So one thing led to another, and I'm in marketing.
Interesting. I'll say that for the record, you are the first person in marketing that I know or have heard from that has ever said they were willing to go into marketing. Many people eventually just like it was just like life threw something at them and they landed there. Anyways, I would like to hear from B now. B, how did you enter into or get into marketing?
All right, hello everyone.
Hi.
So, for me, for me, it's a kind of a funny twist because I always liked numbers as a child, right? So I've got 2 degrees in mathematics. Funny,
Wow.
but yeah. But when I was in school, I did a couple of things, and at some point, I had an event of my own. It was called Break the Runway, and it was as big as doing it at a hotel at the time. So what it was a fusion of fashion and music. At a certain edition, we had David and Pat ranking, all of that. But I knew that I needed to learn structure. You know, we were just doing it as students and just doing what we knew within our capacity and all of that. And clearly, like we're lacking on a lot of front project management, all of that. But as far back as then, we're already having partnerships with the likes of Bella Niger, 360 Knobs, Below, all of that. So, and we're doing all of this, you know, informally, in our own capacity. You understand what I'm trying to say? But I knew that I needed to find the structure. So what I did was that after NYC, I started cold mailing like a couple of media houses, Red Media, all of that. I got offered some roles, but it wasn't necessarily what I wanted because at the time it wasn't about money for me because I'd made from those events. You can imagine how
That's
much
good
money
money. Yeah.
made. So it wasn't about money. I wanted to learn structure, and I ended up at a place called Dot Media House. Interestingly, I wanted to learn, what's it called, experiential marketing. But at the time, Dot Media did influencer marketing.
Marketing. Yeah.
Right? But it was the fastest place for me to grow because at the time they were a bit of a small team. Um, in my second, third month, I was already leading projects, right? But I would say that because maybe I had some advantage of the fact that I'd
Yeah.
gone to informally or whatever it was. I never thought I would do a full circle back into influencer marketing because after I left there, I went pretty serious digital. So SEO, SEM, paid, you know, advertising, programmatic ads, and all of that. And then after I left there, I went on to become a brand strategist and all of that. Then at some point, I taught a masterclass on influencer marketing because I still
Marketing.
always kind of like had influencer marketing. So I took a masterclass during COVID year. I was on leave. I took a masterclass. There was a brand manager of an FMCG, a pretty big FMCG. They're like maybe number three in the soda space, right? And she was in that class. She reached out to me, said, "Oh, she would like to bring us on as their influencer marketing agency and all of that." And I said, "Okay, I'll take it to my boss, blah blah blah." But they insisted, and that's how I started my own agency.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
because I had a plan that, oh, I'm going to do this for 10 years and then start mine. Maybe I would have gathered all the experience in the world by then. So yeah, that's really how I got into this space. A
Wow,
lot of
interesting.
hindsight, but there was also a bit of intentionality in there.
Yeah, interesting that we have someone that leads like an influencer marketing agency because I really have questions about influencers. But, anyways, let's hear from Angela before we get into the question and answer session.
All right,
Angela,
sounds
let's hear from you, please.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's good to meet
Hi.
you all. So I think my story is sort of similar to Alice. I studied mass communication in school. Actually, I've always been interested in communications. Always just been, interested with the whole 9 years. Actually, so I had my background in journalism. Actually, that's where
Okay.
I thought I wanted to major, but I grew up with, like an advertising background. Growing up, my elder brother and I used to like watch a lot of ads. We used to critique ads. And we just loved ads generally, right? And sometime in my third year in school, I realized that if I continue down my trajectory of um journalism, I might not have as much, fulfillment as I would have wanted from a career. So then I started to explore public relations and advertising, did communication, corporate communications for a bit, there as well, worked with a health tech as a comms officer. But, from there, for me, clarity in my career sort of just came, by solving problems, on the job, right? So one step led to another, from the first job to the next job. I realized, there are problems here that I don't think I can solve. That's actually how I landed in strategy specifically, right? There were business slash communication problems that the trajectory I was on wasn't able to solve. So I went back to the drawing board, took a few more courses, down the line, then came back and, realized that, oh, I'm actually interested in strategy. So I worked with an agency before coming to, my current agency. And, in that whole process of working there, clarity came. And yeah, so my work covers the whole nine yards of advertising, right, with influencer marketing as one bit of it.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. It's interesting to know that some people actually wanted to be in marketing. Like for me, like I said, it was just life just treated me, and I found that I loved it, right? But I guess life has a way of just ensuring that we all eventually be where we're supposed to be and do what we're supposed to do. Okay, so we're going to be getting into the question and answer session today. And for those on the call, maybe you're just joining in, we'll be exploring the rise and prevalence of influencer marketing. We'll talk about when to incorporate influencer marketing into your strategy and how to set it up for success. And would also identify how to source or the right influencers to use, how to craft compelling campaigns and collaborate for authentic and relatable content. We would have case studies, obviously, because we have gurus here, we have experienced people as speakers. Shout out to growth marketers for putting these people together to come and share their experiences with us. And then we'll conclude with a recap of best practices to achieve maximum results within the African market because whether we like it or not, we're in Nigeria, we're in Africa. Yes, there are potentials for us to go outside of the African market to work, but right now, I believe most of us are in the African market or the Nigerian market. So I have specific questions for the speakers, but I also have general questions. And so what does this mean? General questions means that when I read out this question, I want that um, speakers all answer the question. So I'll just like um, signal to you when it's your turn to speak, and you then answer the questions, and I would then move to the next person until the question goes round. I guess we're good to go. So my very first questions would be about micro influencers, uh, micro and macro influencers, and nano influencers, right? For the sake of acquisition, so for a brand, we want to, for example, maybe a fintech, they are looking at acquiring more customers. Would you recommend a micro influencer or a macro influencer? So, in the sense of, I believe like a macro influencer is somebody big with over maybe cumulative of 5, 10 million across their social media um, following, or the micro influencers can be somewhere less than maybe 15K, 15, 20K, 25K, and stuff like that. B, I would like to hear from you first, right? Are micro influencers or nano influencers more effective for acquisition in the African market, and why?
To be fair, that I think that there are several questions you need to answer before you answer that question, right? So the first question that is most important is what are you trying to sell, right? What kind of product is it? What is your target audience, right? That will then determine the choice and type of influencer you use, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, what is most important in a proper influencer strategy, right, is knowing exactly, who you're trying to sell to, why you're trying to sell to them, right, and what your product solves for them. That will then influence the kind of influencer you decide to then go for. But in my experience, what I've found is that the best strategy to use is an hybrid, where you have, a bigger macro or micro influencer, depending on how you classify them using based on numbers, right? And then you have other nano influencers, kind of like think about it, kind of like a circle, you know. So there's a big dot in the middle, who is that your micro or the
Big
big
shot.
voice you
Yeah.
want to speak with. Exactly. And then there are the amplifiers around them, if
Mm.
that kind of makes sense. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a you think about it more like a DJ board and then speakers. Right. So a combination usually works best. But if when it comes to but if you're thinking budget wise, if you don't have a big budget, you know, to splurge or it's a smaller project for the brand, it's always best to go nano influencer rather than pour all of your funds into just one.
Into one person.
influencer.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll go with Angela next. Angela, the same question applies to you. And please always for all the speakers, please you can always like relate this to your personal experiences so that it brings it more to life. Thank you. Angela, please go next.
Yeah, so thank you, B, for that context. I will let me not say you stole my answer, but I'm going to follow your lead on that. So I think what I'll just contribute to what B has said is that we need to understand that in African markets, right, influence is still like hyper community driven, and nano and micro influencers, they tend to bring that intimacy. It's like that I know someone who knows someone effect, right? So while you are using that, big influencer to widen your reach, you're using these nano and the micro influencers, like a sandwich of that sort. That's what B was trying to say. So,
Mhm.
personal context, in Okta's first month of launch, their first pan Nigerian launch, right? We used a network of micro creators across cities, and then we complemented them with macro influencers, right? And the conversion outperformed like one of macro partnerships because like people actually believe them. So what micro and nano influencers tend to do is like they break, that clump of influencer marketing, and they give authenticity, especially when you do it right. So a best practice, would that I would recommend would be to integrate them into your product life cycle, right? So let's say you are building a fintech app for students, for instance. Instead of waiting until you launch the fintech product, right, you can work with nano influencers on campuses. If it's let's say it's a fintech product that is targeted at people within that audience, just as we said, know your audience, right? So work with nano influencers on campuses, let them test early features, build hype in their community groups, and then by launch day they're not just talking about the products, like they've actually lived with it. So that kind of embedded advocacy is good, and when you work with nano and micro influencers, that's what you get from them.
Okay. Cool, thank you. You can go next, Angela. Sorry, Angela.
Alice.
Alice, sorry. I'm
It's
so
fine.
sorry.
Okay, so I think they've literally said everything. The stage of your business is also very important. If you're very early stage, you may need some popular faces, some known faces. Maybe not popular like, oh, they have to be celebrities. They just have to be people that already have like a strong community. Their community trust them already. You use those kind of people to build some kind of relationship, like credibility for your brand. To say, oh, this person's brand is tied to this person's brand, so I think I trust them a little bit more.
No.
So if depending on the stage of your business, right, you can decide to go for like a more, at the early stage, go for like more popular people to push out your content to just build credibility. The goal is very important, actually, at the end of the day. What you want to achieve is very important. What stage you are is very important. The budget you have is very important in
Very,
selecting
very
the
important.
influencers. And the way you use the influencers is also very important because sometimes we find that brands use all influencers the same way. Sometimes, like the way they use macro influencers like a celebrity, they then treat them this like they treat nanos the same way, they treat micros the same way. Everybody's creating the same kind of content across board. Sometimes they are restricted by scripts. It depends on the effectiveness or like the efficacy of your campaign, the result that you're going to get from it really depends on like so many things, and they've touched on it. So my own addition would just be the stage your business in would determine the kind of influencers you would use, the goal you want to achieve, like your major primary goal at this point in time for your campaign. It may not be long term, it may just be short term, it may not be sales for you, it may not be downloads for you, it may just be awareness for you, right? It, like literally depends on what you want to achieve. And then your budget and how you use the influencers determines the kind of results you get from the campaign. I believe all of them are effective, just the way they are being used and when they are being used.
Okay, so in summary, I would say that what I get from all of you is know your goal or your business goal, identify the stage in which your business is, so that you can know the kind of people to choose. And basically, it's a mix and match for everybody. You don't have to necessarily stick to one. You can mix and match them to achieve your business goal, right? Okay, cool. The second question for me would be, should brands allow influencers to fully take creative control, or is collaboration more effective? So I'll give like a background to this question, right? Like I said, I've worked in GT Bank, and I'm currently also working at Money Point. There are times when at GT Bank we have given influencers full creative control. We gave them brief. This is what we are trying to achieve. This is it. But do what you want, or send us the video. And when the video came back, we were like, "Did you read this brief at all? Like, is it as in, do you have a team that went through this brief for you? Is it that you don't understand the brief?" And from my experience, right, I've come to realize that it's almost better to kind of script for them, give them like it's almost like giving them what to do. But again, it then takes me back to the fact that we're paying you so much, you should be able to creatively come up with something. So, Anjola, please let me hear from you. What's your experience, and what do you best advise?
Okay, so I would answer the question, then I'll come back to the scenario that you gave. So my answer would be that creative freedom with context is a sweet spot. So first, you need to understand that influencers know their audience better than you ever will, but they need to understand your why. Right? So, for instance, at Okta, we give influencers like our campaign intention, we give them a comprehensive brief, and then we trust them to translate it into their voice, right? The biggest wins always come from when, from a collaboration where like the creator can take the story and then the brief rather and shape it into a story without it feeling like a forced ad. Now, if I were to, so some of the gaps or the issues that you have within that process comes from how your brief is given. So the first thing you need to understand about influencers is that they are people and they are creatives. If you give a creative a business brief, they don't really care about your product that well, if we're being very honest, right? They just want to know, what do you want me to do? What exactly do you want me to do? So sometimes make a comprehensive brief, right? Take that business brief. So, for instance, if you're in the corporate space, your best practices, have your marketing team actually sit down with that brief and turn that business brief into a creative brief for the influencer, right? So, in that process, you are taking all that mechanical jargon, all that we want to aspire to Maguire, and actually putting it into a simple and honest why. If your honest why is just, I want to make more money, like be honest about it. Don't, give the
Don't
influencer
give them
something.
jargon. Yeah.
Yes, take all of that clump out, and also understanding the influencers you're working with and their management processes helps you to make better briefs, right? So, for instance, in the event that you make a brief, I'm speaking specifically to the experience that you shared because
Yeah.
it's a common experience, right? So in the event that you set up what's the word, a brief with an influencer, and this kind of person, you already understand that or it's your first time, so you can't really tell. So what I would say for first time influencers that you've never worked with before, make it a creative brief, right? Creative brief, there are different formats that strategists have done in the past. The easiest one I've seen is get X person to do blah 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 by doing XYZ. And add in references. Oh, this is how I want it to sound. This is what I want you to do. Do you understand? Make it that specific. Then at the bottom, if you now want like the influencers to not care about all those jargons that you want to need, specify, oh, say this and do not say this. We don't use these words. Like you need to be very specific, right? Once you've given them, this comprehensive document, they can now go back, and so comprehensive document here being a creative brief at the top, then you now layer it with all your mechanical jargon so that if maybe they did not understand the product well enough, they can go back, to that drawing board and then draw from, right? So usually that's what I'll say. So wrapping it up again, creative freedom within proper context, right? That's where you want to aim for.
Okay, cool. But before I select the next person to speak, please, I would like us to keep our answers to like 1 minute so that we can cover a lot of questions, so that we can maximize our time. Okay, Alice, please, your opinion on this.
Okay, so Angela is very right. Context is very important. Another thing that is very important is communication. A lot of I've seen briefs, and I'm always like, like it's very confusing sometimes to interpret some briefs. Internally, when we take on campaigns, we tend to rewrite some of these business briefs, like Angela said, and convert them into creative briefs that we share with the influencers. Another thing we do is we let the influencers meet with the brands. They have a conversation. They have like a proper onboarding. We onboard them like a customer. We let them know exactly what we want to achieve. This is what we're looking at. These are the features we're looking to promote. This is most important for us right now at this point in time. That relationship with the brand, that conversation with the brand also makes them more comfortable, right? Then another thing we do is we create a group for the influencers. In the case where you run into an issue or you have a problem and you maybe something happened and you really need help at that point in time, we're providing like very immediate help for you so that you can really do what you want to do. So like context is very important. Communication is also even more important, right? So when you're communicating with them, you're talking to them, you're saying this, okay, this is what we want, this is what we want. Okay, how about you do this? Sometimes they are confused also on the best way to actually even interpret your brief. So when we, the ones that created the brief, sit down with them and have conversations with them on this, oh, this is what's okay. How about this? We saw this video that we like on your page that is really good. How about you create something similar but put like a twist to it and stuff? That communication makes them more comfortable to do their work better, right? We've barely had any influencer had issues with their content because of this communication strategy we've put in place to allow them talk to us and also talk to the brand to get better understanding of the product that they are promoting.
Okay. B, please, your turn.
Okay. Thank you, Angela and Alice, for this wonderful point. I'll just add one or two things, right, to what they've said. So the most important thing is there's a reason why you chose that influencer, right? And what's much more important than that is getting out of their way, right? But before you get out of their way, it's very important that you map out the path, maybe not necessarily the path, but the destination you want them to get to. Now, you chose them for a reason. You chose them because they fit your brand, because of the quality of work they do and all of that, right? It's best not to cram their style and say, "Oh, you must do it a certain way. You must do it a certain way," because what then happens is that the influencer themselves do not begin to they begin to not enjoy the work they're doing for you, and usually it will show, in how they deliver the message, in even how the audience receives the message, right? It's important that you map out the destination clearly, so that you're not trying to go to Quara and they're going to Kafancha. But it's also important to get out of the way for them to do their job.
Okay. In summary, it is I'll steal Angela's words. She says, give them liberty with context, right? And from Alice's and B's response, also you have to enhance communication between the influencer and the brand. This is um, assuming that influencers don't usually have access to brands. Many times there's like a influencer marketing agency. So it's easier when influencers and meet with the brands they're actually working for or working with to hear from them directly to say, oh, this is what we're trying to achieve and stuff like that. Okay, I'll go to the next question before we then move to the general questions or individual questions. I beg your pardon. How sorry. Okay, can you walk us through a campaign that exceeded acquisition goals using influencer marketing based on your personal experience and what worked? What did you do? It could be with any brand that you have worked with. So it is. I want to know how you achieved the campaign, how you selected, what influenced the choosing of the influencer, and how you were able to track that it actually exceeded. I know I said 1 minute, but please just try and squeeze your answers into all of this. B, please go first.
Sorry, before B goes, can you repeat the question? The first like sentence you said.
Okay, can you walk us through a campaign that exceeded
Oh, okay.
acquisition goals? What made it work so well? So I was just explaining the extra things. Please
Yeah, I
can you
did hear
answer the
that thing.
questions?
Sorry.
Yeah. Biyi, please can you give your response to that?
Okay. So in 2021, right, 2021, um, we had a brief for Fearless, the energy drink, right? And what they were trying to do at the time was to disrupt the market, right? Because at the time, Fearless was seen as more like the underdog in the sense of like, because of maybe certain perceptions, branding, they were the only bottled energy drink brand at the time. You know, several other competitors were in cans, and they were more in quote prestigious, or they had certain kind of like associations, right? But what Fearless wanted to do at the time was not to look prestigious as well. You know, they just wanted to disrupt the market. They wanted everybody talking about them. So it was more of Toma, right, and disruption for them. So what we did was at the time have a collaboration with Toby Bakri. Toby Bakri is, you know, fits into the box for them. You know, he was a fitness guy. He was pretty bold and daring. At the time, he had not even started going into movies, right? Anyway, we had a number that we agreed on all of that, and Toby Bakri went over and beyond and delivered for these guys. It went as I mean, the campaign went as creative as I mean, what we wanted or what we imagined that would come out of that campaign was probably this, and then he took it all the way to this, right? And we had other several nano influencers also on Twitter at the time. As a matter of fact, the influencers were almost got annoying because it was like the drink was everywhere, everyone was talking about it, and it went over and beyond to the point where in 2022, 2023, Fearless became the owned the biggest share of the market, as big as 85% at some point, you know, from this sort of disruption. And over time, even over time, Toby Bakri then went on to do even greater things. You know, he went on to do movies, and we are able to collaborate with him on a couple of movies, like I think Brotherhood. Yes, Brotherhood. We did Brotherhood with that in the movie, and we gained a lot of end media from those collaborations with him. And for the budget at the time, it was pretty impressive. We probably did over like a thousand, I think 1,380%, more than what was projected. So that was a really good campaign for us.
Okay, before I move to the next person, I would like to ask you, what do you think you guys did that made the campaign work, and how would you say you measured? I know for it's easier when you're dealing with like a fintech, there are like maybe codes or stuff attributed to these influencers that you can use to measure in yours, because I believe it's like an FMCG, I believe. So how did
Yeah.
you measure the, because again, as marketers, I have this boss that always says numbers matter, and like there has to be something to track. So how
Yeah.
are you able to track this growth or the numbers, number one? So what do you think you did that made, obviously I understand that, oh, this person, people like this person, but what is it you did that you think made the influencer campaign work?
Okay. So I'll answer the second question first, right? What we did that made influencer campaign work was get out of the way, to be honest. If we had insisted that we wanted things done a certain way with Toby or with the other, nano influencers that were also engaged in that campaign, it would have probably been within the parameters of our success, that we are set for success, you understand? But what had happened is that we allowed him a lot of creative control. He would come and say, he will come to the table and say, "Oh, I think we should do this. I want to do this. I want to go skydiving in Dubai. I think, if we put this video together this way, that way, it would work." Well, okay, go for it, right? So getting out of his way was something, because again, we needed to trust our intuition or our judgment, of the fact that he was a great guy for this campaign, and we needed to make it work. Sometimes it happens that you pick the right person, but because you don't get out of the way, the campaign gets messed up. Emotions fly around. You feel somehow slighted. You feel like you're not getting results from it, right? So that was the major thing that we did. As regards like measuring numbers, the good thing about FMCG is that numbers are things are very measurable. Numbers of bottles sold. We went from about 30 something percent market share before that campaign. And good thing it was a long term campaign again. This campaign was almost 3 years long, right? We went from that to doing 85%. That was a very clear marker. Secondly, um, the numbers again from the back end, from social media measurement and all that. Because what the complicated thing about influencer marketing most times is that when you're not doing an hashtag trend or of some sort or an hashtag campaign, you have to calculate manually. So every influencer sent you their back end, then you pull the numbers together, and the numbers were crazy, actually, like for what we expected. So I'll give maybe I don't remember the numbers now until I go back, but I'll say maybe if we set a target of 5 million, maybe engagement, we probably got like 60 million. That's how crazy it was. But yeah.
So, Alice, your turn.
Okay. I think for us, we prioritize like letting the influencers do what, like Bia said, the best results we've ever had is when we allow the influencers to do what they feel is best for their audience. For example, we did a Mother's Day campaign for Tap Tap Send, and we worked with Kiki because I mean she's a new mom, and we wanted to go from the angle of celebrate your mom. There was a giveaway going on, and we wanted Kiki to celebrate her mom now that she's now a mom and get other people to participate in the giveaway, right? I mean, we did a couple of things for that campaign, but I just wanted to just piggyback off what Bia said in regards to like letting the influencers just do what's best for their audience. And everybody knows Kiki is a funny person. She laughs, she does like a funny audio and all those things. For this particular video, she was very serious. Like it was very, very serious. No jokes, no nothing. It was also 2 minutes long. And the brand was sort of worried that, oh, it's not usual Kiki style, is this, is that. And we're like, oh, let the video just go because, I mean, she has said that she would prefer to talk about it this way so people can understand that it's serious for her. She takes her mother serious, and we like the tone that she used in the video. So let it fly. That video got over 1 million views in 4 days. That was one of our best performing videos around that time. 1 million organic view that time, right? In 4 days, right? So letting the influencers take creative liberty is really, really good. I mean, imagine if you had like boxed that in and said, oh, you have to do like this key thing that you normally do. I'm sure we would not have gotten the same results from that particular campaign. Every other creator also did the same thing. Nanos, we had people with like 5,000 followers, for example, averaging like 15,000 views because of how we just allow them to, oh, this is what we're trying to achieve. This is what we want to promote. This is the end result for us. And we want you to actually infuse this. We want this as personal as possible. I would also say storytelling is another angle that we always go for, like when it comes to influencer marketing, like tell stories that are personal, that that you're comfortable with. You don't have to go and share something that is not relatable to you, right? Talk about something that your audience will relate to. And it did so well for us in terms of numbers, in terms of app downloads, and in terms of sends. Like it really did amazing, right? But we did a couple of things. It was just like one of the things that really stood out because they wanted Kiki to do like a funny video, but she ended up doing something serious, 2 minutes long, by the way, that wouldn't normally do so well on Instagram, and it performed like
Yup.
amazingly
Yeah.
for the yeah. So that'll be like it. Another thing is after the or during the campaign, you're open to like or be willing to revise some strategy. If you're doing your campaign, especially for like long-term campaign, and you see like an influencer is not performing well, maybe the person normally does something and the person did something else. We tend to revise the strategy in the middle of the campaign also, like, or give the person feedback. If there's no feedback to the influencer, sometimes they don't know what they're even doing wrong, or they don't know if they're even doing anything wrong. As long as they're concerned, some of them think what brands pay them for is the content itself. And so they are not really concerned about pushing the content beyond their followers or beyond the people that have already seen the video on their post. So we do like a combination of like so many things, like giving the influencers feedback. Oh, is it possible for you to do it this way? We also monitor like the places they get the most results. So if we notice you got the most result from Insta story, instead of us working with you to create like a video post, except if you want to license that video for a brand to use for marketing purposes, we'll just rather stick with your Insta story. right? So that, because we know that that's where you're getting your most results, it's better for you to create UGC like content on Insta story. So we do a lot of revision during the campaign to see what's working, what's not working, give feedback to the influencers. The feedback has always helped us with all the brands that we've worked with. Like, we go from having like maybe like 5 downloads to now having like 20, 30 downloads per person, right? It has worked for us. So letting the influencers do what they know best, what's best for their audience, and giving them feedback during the campaign so that they can improve on the results that we're actually getting. Because we work with global fintech brands, or like majorly fintech brands, we also allow them to see their results. We give them a UTM link that they can actually track. You see your results. You see how poorly you're performing or how well you're performing. So it's not like, oh, we're trying to like lie to you. You can see your result live. So if you're not doing well, you can easily say, okay, yeah, you know what, I can actually. Then the more it climbs, you can also say, oh, I see my results is climbing. Can you guys check in out? So they also give us feedback. Again, we prioritize communication at Creative Agora. Like, the influencers have like a close relationship with us, and we have a close relationship with them. So that's always been like the biggest strategy for us in getting the best result for the brands that we work with. So
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Thank you. Um, Angela, it's your turn.
All right. So, one of the best campaigns, or I'm going to use recent, right? So, recently we had a brief from Okta, right? And the goal of the brief was simple, right? A lot of people know our business, a lot of people know what we do, but we need to build credibility and get more people to understand specifically why we're better than others, right? So, and also understand, how reliable we are. So, the campaign was called the Trust Campaign, right? So our goal for that campaign was simple, right? We're not trying to chase for visibility. It was specific to education and trust. And this campaign is just 2 weeks in, currently still running. We've not wrapped up yet. It's just 2 weeks in. And, in 2 weeks, we've gotten, nearly 400 link clicks, from the content, like, and the influencers that, you know, have, we engage. Now, I know that number might, sound small if you are used to like big lifestyle campaigns, but understand that this is a niche like forex, right? And that's it. That for us, those are like really good numbers, right? Now, and these were people, actual people who did not just click the links, downloaded and funded their accounts. Now, a few things that made it work for us was first, picking the right platforms. So we selected, platforms where potential traders were already spending their time, right? So think, niched communities, niched Telegram communities, right? Secondly, we work with creators who were not just posting, right? These guys actually cared about educating their audience, and the authenticity sort of showed. The third thing was, we launched the campaign at a time when we aligned it with new product upgrades. So this allowed the influencers to also explain these updates, in real time, helping people, to feel more confident in the product, right? So like I said, we're still tracking the long-term results of the campaign, but like early signs already is already showing to be one of our highest performing influencer campaigns, with that goal in mind. So yeah, it's really, reshaping how we're approaching strategy going forward.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you for answering the question. The next question would be on performance and measurement, right? Many times it's very easy to like just assume that a campaign performed well or influencer is doing well. What are the key KPIs to measure for influencer marketing success? So, for example, at Money Point, we started a campaign to say we want to push our savings account, and we use an influencer. What are the things to measure, right? And the goal is customer acquisition. So, what would I say, or how do I set up a strong measuring system to ensure that if I'm presenting to my CEO to say, okay, this is what we spent and this is the result. What are the things to measure to prove that the campaign was successful? I'll start with Alice this time around.
Um, okay, so campaign is different brand to brand. Um, I mean, Angela just said they were looking for credibility and not necessarily like that's what their goal was for the recent campaign they're working on. So campaigns are different brand to brand. That's the very first thing. Before you even go and approach the influencer, when you're setting up your strategy, your goals and whatnot, ask yourself, what's the immediate need of the brand? What are
Sorry,
you people
I don't know
looking
if
for?
you missed it. Sorry, I don't know if you missed it. I'd mentioned
Yeah.
customer acquisition. I'd mentioned customer acquisition. So for a brand whose goal is customer acquisition, we've
Okay.
got an influencer. Yeah. What are the things or the KPIs to measure to say, or what are the KPIs to put in place to let us know that this campaign is going well, is successful, or is not doing as much? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, because we work with like remittance brands, like goes from the brands, even though it's customer acquisition, is always very different, right? For some people, it's to increase the number of sends, like people that send money through the app. They're not literally looking to like onboard new customers at that for the campaign. They're looking to actually retain the old ones that they actually have, like get them to send more money at that point in time. For some people, it's the new downloads, the new sends, right? So it's not like a one size fits all for all the brands. I mean, for all the people that we've actually worked with, we deal with different campaigns at different times. Location also is very important sometimes when we're setting up KPIs. Are they looking to target a certain like location? Are we like, if you're a global remittance company, for example, your goal may be to shift from UK to US or from US to Canada. So again, goals are still very important when you're drafting your strategy. That's when you realize, okay, this is what we're looking for. We are looking for 1 million downloads with this influencer campaign. We want to spend $1 million for this campaign. And at the end of the day, 1 million downloads, we want like 50 cents, or we want like 30% of that 1 million downloads to be like, like first time senders, right? So it really depends on what you guys want to achieve in house. But if you're looking for the goals to actually track, right, you're going to look for things like your first time senders. I don't know if I'm answering correctly, but you're going to look for things like downloads, like who are the people downloading in the location that you're looking to target. I'm speaking to the audience the brands that I work with right now, because location is also very important for us. If we onboard somebody and the person is getting us a lot of downloads, regardless of if we're looking for like downloads at that point in time, and that person is getting us a lot of downloads, that influencer is getting us a lot of downloads from Nigeria instead of from UK, that campaign is not successful for us because let's say the app doesn't work in Nigeria, for example. So it's still based off of what you guys are really looking for, right? Acquisition for brands, I think, are very different. It's not the same. So track the location. If you're a fintech brand or a remittance brand or a tech brand, track the location of the people that you want to work with. This is the location that we're prioritizing. This is the exact thing that we're prioritizing, the downloads that we're prioritizing. We're prioritizing first time sends. When we worked with AfriX last year, one of the things they targeted was first time senders in UK, downloads in UK, but most especially first time senders over 150 pounds per person, right? So we had that in mind when we're creating our strategy for the brand. Oh, this is what they want to do. We're not looking for US, we're not looking for New York, we're not looking for like Canada, we're looking for literally UK people, right? So the goal again is dependent on the brand. So what you guys want to achieve will determine what you guys want to track. For us, the number of people we got in UK for AfriX at that point in time, how many people in UK downloaded the app, how many people in UK that downloaded the app used the app to set more than 150 pounds during that period. That was like what we tracked for them. And it's different from like TransferGo or TapTapSend or Senwa or SendSprint. So it's really dependent.
Okay, cool. Um, Angela, can I hear your opinion on this?
Mhm. So thank you very much, Alice, for that breakdown. I think I'm just going to summarize because I feel like I might be repeating the same things. But I would say, don't fall for vanity metrics, right? So I focus on like click-through rates, conversion rates, and customer acquisition costs. So for instance, for early stage brands, you know, like juicy way, engagement and sign-ups are key, right? Getting people to engage on the content by making inquiries, is key. People who sign up, really key. For Octal or for brands, where there is already awareness, we optimize, for funded accounts or in-app actions. So promo code usage, or how many people created demo accounts, that kind of thing, right? So essentially, I would say always ask yourself, right, how far down the funnel did that influencer actually drive, which is pretty much what Alice was trying to say when she was giving the example of the brands that specified to 150 pounds, and those different cosmetics. So really, I would say is
You want to know
how far
how
down
far
the
they
funnel,
take the
yes, did that
customer.
influence the drive. Yes. So if this particular influencer was only get able to get people to sign up, then you already know what to, or where to place that person the next time you have a brief. If you decide that okay, you like their content and you still want to work with them, or even how to use that content essentially. So that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you. B, your turn.
Okay. For a brand in the iGaming industry that we've worked with for about 4 years now, the most important KPI that we've come to learn determines present and future success, right? Is first time deposits. Because if you're able
Sorry,
to
you said what?
drive
First time what? Okay,
first time deposits,
okay.
did you get that? Because once a customer commits money, right, is a show of a level of trust, right? So once they commit money to whatever brand it is, to your brand, right, it shows that it's very likely that one they would use that money in the present and would probably fund more money in the future, pay you much more business. So that's what we found out is the most you know effective measurement of present and future success.
Okay, thank you. I'll just summarize from what I hear is don't focus on metrics. Be specific as to what you want to measure. Understand where what you want to achieve as a marketer or as a brand. That will inform exactly what you would measure, right? For Alice, she had said they measured stuff like first time sign up, transfer, and all, same as B. And Anjola also mentioned the fact that for them, they also measured like down the how far the influencer is able to get people from awareness level to actually committing money and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you so much guys for that. I hope you can still hear me. Rain started falling on my end, so I'm very yeah, thank you. Okay, so now I'll go into specific questions. We have very little time. We have like about 18 minutes to go. Alice, I have a question for you here. Um, for on the part of authentic partnership and community building, right? For looking at it from an influencer brand um, angle, do you prioritize long-term relationships like ambassadorship or just one-off campaigns with influencers? Let's just assume there's a budget. Let's assume that you have like the budget, right? Do you prioritize signing up? Have you, from your experience, do you feel like okay, so Angela is an influencer? Do you feel have you noticed that signing Angela for a long-term process gets you more from her, or just using influencers one of from your experience over working with several brands?
Okay, so there's some influencers that like for one term you can't use them like long term, right? Like I said earlier, we always revise our strategy. If you see that the influencer is not converting in terms of there's no views, there's no engagement, there's no downloads, and it looks as if this person, like maybe from the person's content, we felt like this person would have like really good results, and the person is not having good results. It may be that the person's brand and our brand they are not aligned, or their our followers um our followers are not in that space to buy the product or use the product at that time. Because there's something called, everybody know life stage. People's influencers followers are also at a certain life stage also, where they need some things. So the product you may be pushing to them may not exactly be useful to them at that point in time. We can revise that, engagement or relationship in like maybe like 6 months or 3 months after. But there's some influencers we just use one off if you see that the result is not good enough. And there's some influencers we approach for one off campaigns because, oh, these people are not really like a good fit for this brand, but the content they are going to create for this, particular collaboration is going to be so solid. We onboard them for content and we license that content for ads. right? So it's not every influencer that we want to use long term. And there's some people that will repeat over and over and over again because we've seen that their results is really good. We see that their content is really good. Like they just check the box for us, like, so those are the influencers we repeat, right? We wouldn't repeat them, blindly. For some products, it makes sense for you to actually repeat the influencer so that it sticks in their mind. For example, product like skincare, beauty products, right? It does not make sense if you're, oh, today I'm using Alice's face mask. Next tomorrow I've changed to Anjola's face mask. And you're telling everybody that all these face masks that you're actually using works for you, right? It wouldn't make any sense because your audience then start to like, oh, is this person is just doing it for money, right? So for products like that, it makes sense for their followers to actually see the product for like a very long time, right? But for fintech or products that is just like downloads and maybe like tech products, it's just use them once and not repeat them again. Use the ones that convert long term. Revise the ones that did one off and see if you can use them again another time. But for like lifestyle products, imagine me promoting child egg today. Next tomorrow, I'm promoting
Yeah,
Glovo.
Comedy
Next
Global,
tomorrow, I'm
yeah,
promoting- people will start to, okay, so which one exactly do you use?
exactly.
You're using Price Pally, you're using Go Lemon. It's every day that you're changing brands, and all
You
of
know,
them are the
I was
best.
just I like that you said this because I know that we're on the rise of FX transfer brands, and I've
Yeah,
seen some influencers do for Lemfi. They've done for Tap Tap. They've done for different, and it's always very confusing. I also think that many times these influencers don't think of they're just about money. To be fair, many of these influencers are about money. They don't think of how they are building a community of people that actually look up to them to say, "This is since Alice used this, I want to use this," because
yeah,
today you see this person using Lemfi, tomorrow it is Tap Tap. And to be fair, when we were because we recently just launched our money transfer thing from the UK to Nigeria and Money Point, I
yeah,
was very, 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 very intentional about who I selected. If you have done anything for Lemfi in 3 months or 4 months or 5 months or any competition, I wouldn't use it because it's not even your integrity is at stake. You might not mind, but as a brand, I don't want you to do something for exactly what I do for my competitor just like
yeah,
a week or 2 weeks or 3 months ago, and you think that is okay. But thank you for mentioning that. I think that's
yeah.
something that even as marketers we should bear in mind when we're treating people because sometimes I feel like marketers we just throw caution into the air as far as the person is popular, this person is
I mean,
going to
sometimes it's like for like the FX brands that you're talking about. Sometimes, I mean, people are always on the lookout for like the next best, fintech brand that can help them save money. FX is really tricky, right? I can use Lemfi. I may have been using Lemfi all these years, and or maybe last month, and then maybe Lemfi did something to me, and I'm looking for an alternative, right? So it's really tricky. It's very, very tricky, let me not lie, with FX. Sometimes we've seen some brands actually, some influencers that have worked with like a certain brand, work with like a certain brand, and they convert for this new brand. Like they actually convert for this new brand. And we go back to ask the question like, oh, you sometimes we are snoopy like that. We ask questions like, what's this, what's this, what's that? They always tell us the differences, why maybe that one didn't convert, or maybe at that point in time, maybe it was just damage control or something that happened that didn't make people actually use that app. So for some products, yeah, um, like if I'm saving money and or if I'm sending money back home and the FX is always very high on this platform or it's fluctuating or it's not really standard, I may look for another option that will help me save money. But for products like Go Lemon and Price Pally, that are literally doing the same thing. You help me do macarons or like Mile 2 Market or 12 I don't know the name of that other brand. Like Price Valley and Go Lemon, literally. These are brands that help you do
the same
um
thing. Yeah,
yeah, the same
literally
thing.
exactly the same
And
thing.
then you then promote them as, oh, they are really the best. Like today, Go Lemon is the best. Tomorrow, Price Valley is the
Price
best.
tag is the
Not
next.
even telling the difference. Like I use both platforms, and if I want to promote Go Lemon and Price Pally and Manu in the same breath, there's a way I'm actually going to talk about it in a way that makes them look different. right? But influencers sometimes, or even the brand sometimes, don't pay attention to that, and they just say,
Yeah.
"Oh, just go and promote." Price
Good
Pally is somehow different from Go Lemon. There's some products you can't find on Price Pally
price
that should be
value
found
you
on Go
find on
Lemon. There's some products like if you want imported products, all these, like products that are imported, go to Manu. Like if you want some of like this cute, all this co- like there are differences in the product, but influencers tend to like promote them the same way. It's like rinse and repeat, like, oh, it's the best in the world. So when you get Go Lemon too, it saves me time. Both of them save you time. But
time.
what's the difference between both of them, right? So I believe that influencers can actually even promote multiple products, but the way you actually even promote it is what's most important. If you're using the same script for both of these brands without really looking at their differences, right? For example, TransferGo is only useful for those in Europe and is not useful for those outside of, right? So if you're looking at actually promoting something, then you have to talk about, oh, this is really good. This is this. What's the difference between these products that you're
Yeah.
actually promoting? So when people use it and say, oh, but you advertise transfer, go, oh, this is why AfriX is, oh, this is
Yeah.
why Senwa is. You can now tell the difference
Yeah.
between those products. But again, we tend to do rinse and repeat with campaigns sometimes, and yeah,
It's
it
very
can get
tiring.
yeah, it gets really tiring. Their audience flag it and say, okay, we've moved on to the next one, and so it does not really get um result like that, right? I
I guess
mean,
the bonus would.
because of these rinse and repeats is why we sometimes repeat some of our others also and say, you know what, we want to lock you down for 6 months. We don't want you to work with another
Yeah.
brand.
And
So that's why sometimes we also lock them down for like long term, especially if the person's results is really good from like the get go. So yeah, those things I said.
yeah. Anyways, from what I get from your point is, I guess first of all, I would say you didn't actually say this, but from something I get from you is that the onus is on the brand to also ensure that whatever the influencer communicates is very unique to them. Like, so I guess it's at the brief stage you let them know, okay, this is what is unique to us. When you're selling for us or when you're trying to convince your community about our brand, these are the things that you should emphasize, number one. And number two is for things like this, it's probably better to lock down an influencer long term instead of
Yeah.
just like doing short term, because then they're not tied to you. They can, obviously it's a business for them.
I
They
mean, you
can
can put
go.
exclusivity clauses in your contract that allows them not work with another brand for like 1 month or 2 months after
Yeah.
the campaign is over. So there's some legal clauses that prevents the influencer from working with another brand. So during that period of time where we're still testing things out, to say, oh, this is one off. But then if you now want to repeat this person for like the next 3 months because we're testing things out one off, it allows us within that window to still go back to that influencer and say, you know what, we want to work with you. I mean, like, we want to repeat this campaign over and over again. And I think those are some things that you can, like, managers can also, like, put in place the
Yeah.
legal clauses. Yeah. And also, like the first thing you said, the brand, the onus is on brand. Actually, it's more on the influencer than the brand itself. Safe. When a brand comes to meet you and say Price Pally, Go Lemon, these brands, and you say, okay, you know what, I've promoted so and so brand before, and this was what I said. I noticed I used your app. Use the app and know the difference. I used your app and I see that this your app allows for like repetitive transfers. Instead of sending the money, over and over again, I can just put money inside your app and then it allows like it to just be automatically sending home. I don't need to like stress about it. How about I promote this to my audience as a difference between that brand and this new brand, right? So the onus is also on the influencer. It's not just on the brand alone. The influencers have to do their due diligence to make sure that the product that they're giving to them is being marketed to their audience properly.
Right way.
Yeah, properly.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alice. I know that I'd mentioned earlier time. So for Angela and B, please kindly keep your answers to like 90 seconds. That's 1 minute and 30 seconds. However, before I move to Angela or B, I have this very important question that I want to ask all of you. So I will just say that question so you guys will start thinking of your answers down. So I want you guys to give me, that's going to be the last thing you guys will answer. Give an example of a brand that with a failed influencer marketing campaign. So think of an influencer marketing campaign that failed, that you feel like Why did they waste this money? It could be Nigerian, it could be African, like it could be abroad, anything. It could be for movies, it could be anything. And then we'll discuss that and why you think it failed. So now I'll move to B. My question for you would be, can you share tools or methods you have used to track ROI on influencer marketing efforts? I'm going to repeat that. Can you share tools or methods you have used to track return on investment on influencer marketing efforts for campaigns that you have run?
Okay, so for brands that you know, some form of that are not necessarily looking for Toma, right? They're looking for deeper levels of customers acquisition, from sales to leads or whatever. Um, what we've used affiliate links that accurately measure when there's a click on an affiliate's link, when there's a click, the customer behavior generally, when there's an account created, when there's a deposit, when a game is played, right, or when money is spent, when money is withdrawn, all of that. And then the net generated revenue, right? So that's one simple tool we've been able to use with influencers, because unlike other forms of marketing, say like paid marketing, SCM, programmatic, there's a lot of tools back end that you can just use to
Yeah.
basically see what's going on with your campaign. So for brands, that is important to for us to see some form of monetary ROI. Affiliate links have been the way to go.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for giving the time also. Angela, my question to you would be what metrics do you what metrics or KPIs do you prioritize when evaluating the success of an influencer campaign for early stage companies like KPA in comparison to more mature financial brands or more mature brands like Okta?
Okay, so I think I sort of mentioned this earlier, so I'll just summarize again. So for early stage brands, like Juicy, I would say sign ups, cost per lead, followers. We're trying to build demand, right? So but for more mature brands, there are deeper metrics, so like first deposit, retention, trading activity. Essentially, KPIs evolve as your brand matures.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. I'll just go around again with one question each. I guess we have a few more minutes to go before you answer that question I said. Angela, I'll just start with you since you were the last person that spoke. How can brands or how do you identify the right influencer beyond following or count or a niche alignment? So the thing is, it's almost like when everybody wants to pick an influencer, the first thing they're looking at or thinking about is how many followers does this person have on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. Beyond that, how do you identify the right influencer for a brand, whatever brand it is? You could give example of how you identify the right influencer for a particular brand.
So I would say check audience quality and not just size, right? So for that, we look at things like engagement to follower ratio, comment sentiments, how the influencers' content evolved over time, how well they align with brand values. And further down, even trying to like look at their community engagement as well. Like when this person posts, right? How does their audience behave? Do they buy? Do they sign up? Do they take action? I also want to add, sometimes with influencer marketing, somebody is not an influencer in that sense yet, right? But could function as an influencer for you. So a an experience that comes closely to mind is when 2 years ago Okta signed Tunde Onokoya as a brand ambassador, right? At that time, Tunde was just Chess in Slums was finally starting to get its visibility, right? He had just finally concluded the Oshodi project. We had done like some work, with him behind the scenes prior to that time, right? But at that point, we just realized, oh, this person is onto something, and CSR is quite big for the brand. So I mentioned aligning with your brand values, but Tunde had never influenced before. He wasn't an influencer, but For us at that point, our CSR goals were quite big. So he was, the brand CSR ambassador at the time. So anything that had to do with that project, we worked with him first, right? Found the partnerships, created the projects, created experiences around it as it aligned, with our goals at the time. And it was rather successful, actually. After that point, then people now started to look at, Tunde's brand as, oh, okay, this is influence worthy. He's doing something in that space. So I'm just saying, sometimes influencers are, they might never have endorsed for a brand before. They just have that attention. People engage with their content. They're able to, people would actually, pay attention to what they're saying essentially. So, that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you. Just a follow up question for people that might not know how to measure. You had mentioned something, follower to engagement ratio. How would I, as a new marketing person, measure that for an influencer? I'm speaking to you, Angela, like it's a response to your question. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, okay. Can Angela hear me? Angela, did you hear me?
I think she's having a response. Do you want me to take the questions
Okay,
on
yeah,
it?
you can take the question and then
Yeah.
be
So
I was muted.
I believe that what she's trying to explain, I believe that what she's trying to explain is that you need to do a bit of math. It's not a lot. So say someone has 10,000 followers, right? You want to look at the likes and his comments, and his
Yeah.
shares, compare it to how many followers he has. So say for instance, someone that has 10,000 followers and gets 1,000 engagements is probably more effective than someone that has a million followers and gets about what 2,000, 3,000. That person is better value for your money because clearly they're not going to command this amount of money. But
Mm.
you're going, if you have three or four of those people, you're going to get the same result as
Sorry.
paying the other 1 million, followers guy a gigantic sum, right? And it's probably very also likely that maybe there's something that influencer is doing wrong. Either he has got followers or currently does not, he no longer connects or serves the needs of his audience. Maybe he has evolved beyond what they followed him or knew him for, and now he's serving a different, like purpose entirely, and they no longer connect. There's a disconnect. So that tells you that gives you a bit of some insight into the background and why you shouldn't pick that person. So I believe that that's what she's trying to say. If you have any other additions, you can just go ahead.
thank you so
No,
much for taking
thank you
that up.
for
So,
taking the bill, B. I
yeah,
actually, what happened was I did not realize I was muted, and then for some reason, my tab sort of mixed up.
okay. In
So
summary, what
I
Biyi
it
had said,
properly for
yeah,
me.
what Biyi had said is always check the ratio of the following to the engagement. So sometimes it just doesn't marry. So you can tell that something is wrong either with the following or the influencer, or maybe the influencer has evolved or its followers have evolved, or maybe they even bought following because it's something that is common in this digital age. Anyways, your
So,
step back to
sorry,
the
Tolu, one
yeah.
second. So one thing I would just add is also while you are trying to calculate that engagement, keep it within a time frame, right? Don't space it off too far apart. So if you are using the average likes or their engagement at that point, maybe look at their last five posts. Try to calculate the average based off of that or their last 5 to 10 posts. Don't take it, all the way back to when they just started posting because then your numbers will be off. And then, lastly, I think B also said it, a good engagement rate for like larger creators, maybe like 1 to 3%. I think when you have like a 6% engagement rate, like when the person is like they get a lot of comments, per follower. Sometimes you find it more with like either larger creators, but even like niche creators as well. They tend to get that much engagement because they are still relating to their audiences as humans. So their comments might be significantly higher, maybe because they take time to reply to people and all of those things.
Okay, then. Thank you so much. B, my second question for you would be, can you share a lesson learned from a campaign that did not go as planned? Like, obviously, an influencer marketing campaign that did not go as planned. What insights did you gain, and how did you apply them to future campaigns? I guess
Okay.
something that I would just like to add that I did not add here was, well, how did you adapt the, if you eventually saved the campaign, what did you do to save it? And then how did you apply that instead to future campaigns?
Okay. Okay. So I'll tell you about a campaign that we did in South Africa, right? And I'll tell you what the problem was exactly. What had happened was that we didn't fully grasp the culture. So what we had done was look at it from the eyes of a Nigerian. So at the time, there was this lady that had done, like a trend of some sort that was really popular. In fact, it went global. I don't know if you remember it, OJ1 Kwang or something, and a lot of people were quoting it and stuff and all of that. So we brought her on to this campaign, and a couple of others came, Maapa, a couple of, and then at the time, one of our global ambassadors was trying to remember his name now, is a pretty popular rapper in South Africa. Now, why this campaign is very funny is that we didn't consult, our global ambassador. It was like, again, like I told you, we like to do circles. We have a major guy and then we have amplifiers around him, right? So we didn't consult him when we're building this campaign, right? So he picks up his phone and calls me, the very first day of the campaign, and says, Mapa cannot be on this campaign. Now, mind you, we had paid upfront, and the South African market is a bit more expensive. It's not a bit; it's quite more expensive. The South African market, the Moroccan market, they're quite expensive markets, especially like for influencer marketing. We paid upfront, we had done all that. So apparently, they had some form of funny squabble. South Africa is a very funny place, I promise you. It is, we claim that Twitter is a leveler for Nigeria, but it's even worse in South Africa. People as big as the equivalent of like a Bonner Boy would have a proper tweet fight with an influencer because their influencers are also quite, influential. So we're like, Mappa cannot be on this campaign. So and so person cannot be on this campaign. Reason being that they have beef, they have all of that. So, while we're doing all of this, right, he also refused, to put out to put out this content. It was just a lot of mess. There was a lot of back and forth and all of that. But what we learned from that was to make sure to carry everybody along, regardless of how much gap we think are between them. You never know, especially when it's a foreign market that you don't have like 100% understanding of the culture, 100% of understanding of pop culture and all of that and what's going on, right? So we're able to learn that. So what had happened is that a lot of money went under the bridge, but we just had to make it work. We were on new guys and all of that. So yeah, that was our biggest learning from that. The most important thing about foreign markets is, especially like markets like that are not fully home based, is to fully understand the culture to an extent. If possible, liaise with or collaborate with local authorities on the matter. Like local authorities on influencer marketing in those spaces and all of that. So yeah, basically.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. It's a case of once you're going to a different market other than Nigeria, find somebody that is very vast with the SA, whether the market really SA, Morocco, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So kind of be like the bridge to connect both parties. Thank you for that lesson. I can imagine what you must have gone through. It's not something that everybody wants to be in. I guess this is the point where you all answer the question that I asked. Any influencer marketing campaign that you feel like was a failure from the get go, and why you think it failed? Alice, do you want to go first?
Actually, I would plead the fifth because sometimes marketers tend to overanalyze other people's strategy and say, oh, this person and that person. You're not in the room with them. You don't know what they want to achieve. What you think is successful may not be successful to them. What you think is not successful may be successful to them. So I don't know, to be honest, except if I'm in the room with them or a fly on the wall and I can say, oh, this is what they were trying to do and they failed at this, then I'll be able to say, okay, yes, this campaign failed. But I mean, I
You
don't
have
think,
that's also fine. Like I get what
yeah,
you're saying because sometimes
yeah,
campaigns that we think are woeful or like failures are actually, I mean, you don't know what. Like I remember the Jaguar one. For a marketer in Jaguar, it might have been the best campaign that the person has
yeah,
ever run, and we outside were just saying what is this and everything. So I mean, sometimes I share your sentiments.
Or the Carry
Angela,
Wise one that trended, and people were like, "Oh, wrong billboard," and all those things.
yeah.
You're not measuring for them. You're not in the room with them. You don't know what they want to achieve. You don't know what they achieved. So we may just be speculating, and I think that would be unfair on anybody. Yeah, I don't think it would be true to say that campaign was not successful if we don't have a case study to back it up that it was not successful. Yeah.
Okay, B and Angela, do you share same sentiment or do you have something?
So I have a contrary as it pertains to influencer marketing,
Yeah,
because sometimes with campaigns you have like specific briefs. So I'll give a context, right? Yes, I do agree. Sometimes from the outside you don't know what the goals of the campaign were, so you cannot exactly judge for it. But I would also, talk about, maybe I think maybe we want to contextualize what failed is here then. So for me, when it comes to delivery, of a campaign and how it was delivered slash, expectation to delivery ratio, for me is where I would want to differ. So, for instance, if we remember when Fenty was going to launch in Nigeria a few years ago,
yeah,
right? We were really looking forward to how that was going to play out, right? Nigeria was one of the markets that was chosen out of Africa, and then I was particularly curious about it because I mean this is Rihanna's brand, and it was like going to be a global buzz. So for Fenty's come to Nigeria, then I was expecting it to be big. But when the launch event was going to happen, right, it leaned heavily into celebrities and public figures, rather than partnering with the actual beauty creators within that space.
yeah,
People who have with years of trust in the Nigerian beauty space, and like these guys are not just influencers; they're educators, they are reviewers, they are trendsetters. And when you leave them out of a campaign of that magnitude, it doesn't go unnoticed, right? So there's a lot of chatter online, especially around the beauty community, who obviously felt sidelined. And then when a brand makes that kind of first impression, it's kind of hard to undo. So that's what I mean by sentiment. So to their credit, yes, Fenty later onboarded creators like Enilua, cutting into their global influencer program. But by then, the launch hype had
that,
already
like,
peaked,
water has
right?
passed under the bridge.
Yes, and it sort of felt reactive rather than intentional, like medicine after death.
Yeah,
So, for me, right, so that's what I mean. But does this now mean that it did not convert to sales? It did not. I'm just, talking from the point of delivery slash, how you are positioning your brand, because
yeah,
that's also important. And influencer marketing does that for you. So, that moment for me just reinforced something that I always tell brands, right? Influence is not just about who is popular; it's about who is relevant, right? So who actually drives decisions in that space? And then, especially when you are entering a new market, right? You need to be able to lead with not just popular faces, but like star power. You cannot just lead with star power when you're entering a new market. You have to also like lean into like cultural fluency. So, that's why for me that campaign stood out.
yeah. I share same sentiment about the Fenty one because I think I could remember that campaign. It was everywhere. It was like, where are the makeup artists? Where is the Anita Brows and all of these other people? Like, why are you putting like an actor or an actress, whoever was lead on that campaign, probably just felt, oh, let's lean into their star power. But sometimes you have to go from ground up, people that have built trust and they've built their own is it credibility now, say, in the space and everything like that. But yeah, thank you for your response, Angela. And B, do you share
Sorry,
same
sorry.
sentiment?
Before B, actually, I think example actually just yeah. I think the movie industry is actually another example of brands that actually behave this way. All celebrity padded, it's all about the glam.
Actually,
Okay,
because
where's now the movie? Nobody knows anything about the movie, but you know what somebody wore to the red carpet. There was one that actually
yeah,
happened. We're done strategy for this brand, and we told them the influencers we wanted to onboard. I mean, I was part of this one, but I was not. We had done the strategy. We said all the exercise, all the activities that influencers were going to do to make sure that, because it was not really like a popular movie like that. But I feel like if it gets to the right community, the people that love these movies would watch the movie. And when I was seeing the premiere of the movie, because they said, oh, they were not going to proceed with us because they didn't like our strategy, I was like, all right, fine, cool. I'm not going to force you guys.
yeah,
When I saw the premiere of the movie, it was all star studded. I'm like, what's going on? Where are the actual people that actually
that
love the
yeah,
movie? And you know what happened? The movie failed because like the next week or so, the movie was off the cinema because it was so yeah, with your example, Nigerian brands and celebrities, 5 and 6. Like I want to launch something, celebrities. I want
Yeah.
to do something, celebrities.
No,
Like
actually, don't even say celebrity, movie industry people. Like, they want to launch anything.
celebrities,
They are
like
doing
this.
Iyabo Ojo. They are
It's,
doing
yeah,
protest.
it's more about the glam for them, nothing about the movie. You could see a red carpet thing go on Twitter and people talk about it, and you would not know what the event is about. You just know that some people are dressing up and going
Yeah.
somewhere. It's like, yeah, that what
I guess
example
that
actually just jolted me. Like, that's
I
true.
guess that also kind of boils down to the leadership of the brand and whoever, like marketing people. We also need to like move away from. But again, they're making their money. Like I always say, like these people, they will also if they will buy Benz, they will buy house in Lekki one. Do you understand? So it's to their own advantage. But as people that make decisions, I feel like we can also pitch into to leadership, to customers or brands, to let them know sometimes it is not about the popular face or anything. Like you said, look at the Tunde Onokaya one. Like it just makes sense because the value that it has is very similar to the value the brand adds and everything. Okay, B, what's your own opinion on this?
Okay.
I see you have
Well, I'm just like Alice said, I can't, I can't critique in all fairness because I really don't know what the measures of what the measurement of success was. Say, for instance, there's a campaign we ran for the longest time with Biggie and Fearless, and for a lot of people in the traditional marketing, it made no sense, right? Because it was just all noise. They didn't see the numbers, they didn't see what we're trying to do. Because at the end of the day, for that brand, disruption was what they were about, not necessarily trying to look prestigious or or whatever. They just wanted to increase share of voice at least on social media. Yeah, but an example I would take is actually from a brand that we've worked with, we currently work with. So what had happened was that this brand is an European brand, didn't fully understand the African market. So before they came to us, they had signed up, star again talking about star power. They signed up this guy that they were spending $2 million to keep every year. It used to be a very popular Nigerian musician. At the time, it was still popular, right? But it was difficult to get things done with him. You know, get a video shoot, get a photo shoot. He's asking that, oh, you fly all the way from London to LA to go shoot that particular video. You show up in LA, you sort out his rider, do all of that, and then he's showing up 2 hours late for the shoot, or he's giving an attitude on set. It was a mess. Okay, now we've gotten this video done. Put it out, tweet it. It was a problem, right? So these guys had to. What happened is that after we took them on, we now had to divest into proper influencers that understood their brand. This is an iGaming brand. So they're in the sport betting industry and all of that. So what we now started doing was that, anyway, long story short, with less than a tenth of that budget, right? They got more ROI than they had ever gotten from this guy that they kept for 2 years. And what we had simply just done was, go with tipsters, go with long punters, people that talk about football, people that, already share bet codes on Twitter, share bet codes on their Telegram community channels. It just made much more sense than this musician guy that was giving them L for nothing. Right. So yeah, I think that in that sense, sometimes we get tricked by the idea of star power and all of that, and forget to really boil down to our why and what our product is and who best understands our product and who has the audience that will buy our product or buy our ideas.
Okay, thank you. I can see questions coming in from attendees. I guess we've answered something very similar, but I'll just allow maybe B, you can answer this question again because I feel like somebody has answered this question. Do you collaborate with influencers on a one-off basis or for a longer duration?
So personally, I prefer to keep my influences for a long term, but revise often. So usually, what we'll do is have a 3 month trial and have a number of courses here and there that says, oh, renewable after whatever. But basically, what that allows me to do is that I usually find out that sometimes 1 month is not enough to really know an influencer. There could be a fluke where it could do crazy numbers, in a month. It could be maybe some just one of those random posts, and then he happened to say something that even he doesn't believe that you have done that well, right? And there's sometimes that particular month is just a dry month for them, you know, for some reason or the other. But usually, a 3 month period kind of helps you really know what an influencer, or have an idea of what an influencer can do for you, and then that then helps you, that helps you inform your decision for whether you want to keep them longer term or shorter term. But generally, I favor longer term, because that way that there's a deeper relationship, there's a deeper understanding of your product, there's a deeper understanding of your goals and all that. Things just tend to come together better, over a longer duration. But like Ali said as well, there are actually some people that are really one of, usually skit makers. It's just best to just do one and just
Let's
let
give
it go.
them one of
You get what I mean?
But
Just let
it's
it
just
go.
that I'm always very sentimental about them because they could be in one problem or the other, and it would then be a bad PR for the brand.
Yeah, yeah. Usually,
So
I just find, because then again, like how many times can your product fit into a funny skit, really and truly?
yeah,
Yeah. And I find that sometimes these people are very, very disloyal. You send them a contract that clearly shows a clause that you've said you're not going to be able to work, and then that becomes L, and that tells me that it's time to walk away from the table. Because if you do not feel the need to even protect your own integrity, if you're telling
yeah,
people that, "Oh, this is the best L drink, in Nigeria currently, or this is the best water in Nigeria," and you were looking for room to be able to tell somebody else this is another best
let's
L drink
drink. Yeah,
that same month, then you're not someone I want to work with, right?
yeah,
So yeah, so usually for skip makers, I don't like to do long term, but for niche influencers that I know, because again, I trust my intuition. I did quite a lot of research. I did quite a lot of brainstorming before I thought this person would fit, right? So what I want to do is get out of the way of my judgment,
yeah.
and make it a bit more longer term. But usually, you would have a shorter term cost just to make sure that this relationship will work, because for reasons best, who knows, it might not even work for the person. It might not even be about you the brand or you the agency. It might also be about the influencer. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Any other questions on YouTube, please? Can you like display the questions, please? Okay, how do you go about your selection? Online or you consult an agency? I'm not quite sure about this question, but I believe the person is trying to ask if you probably reach out to the influencers directly or you consult through an agency. So he owns an agency, so I'll allow him to answer the question again. Sorry.
Well, I consult my guys. I have some of the best colleagues in the world, right? And they're pretty smart, pretty efficient, pretty informed, and usually that's how we go about our selection.
Okay, what about you, Angela? How do you go about your selection for influencers?
So I think that I'm trying to see if Biole is trying to ask this question, as a brand. So like he's not an influencer marketer, but
Yeah,
he's like he owns his own maybe business and he wants to work with influencers. So I would say depending on your level of scale and what you are trying to do, most influencers either already have an agency that manages them, right? So, or an agent that manages them. So, if you, for instance, Surefire way, if you're a brand, you're just starting out, you are trying to determine how best, and maybe you don't have an in house marketing team, I would say, your best bet, work with an agency. They know these guys. They don't just know these guys, they understand how to work with them and they've been in the know for a bit. So if you're a new brand, trying to, enter into that space and you don't have a strong in-house marketing team, I would advise, right, work with an influencer marketing agency. On the other hand, like if you have a marketing team in-house and then you just, for instance, you are a fintech. Now, most fintechs, especially if you are not in the FX space, you might not need to work with an influencer all the time. Maybe you just want to do something one-off, right? Have your marketing team, contact the influencer directly. What you get from that more often than not, it's because it's a one-off, right? And if you already have your brief, if you don't, I would advise again, go to an influencer marketing agency. They would advise on how the process goes and negotiation wise, for instance, they might help best with that as well. What would just happen is your influencer marketing agency they'll need to make, it's not free. We'll need to make money off of it as well. So, we're going to charge our fee on that. But what you are paying for is time, is experience, is a network of people, and, all of those things inside of it. But if you think, for instance, like I've met, founders that are rather creative themselves, right? And they are able to, they're a one man army literally. And they just want to work with an influencer one off. They don't want to have to do the whole 9 yards. I would advise save your time, right? Contact the influencer directly, see if you make any success of it. But then, if you now are not able to do that, then go through an influencer marketing agency. So that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Alice, do you have anything to add to that, or you share same
Okay.
sense? What?
Sorry. I'm just gonna say I'm the founder of Creative Agora. So I also own an influencer marketing agency. Just wanted to just correct that. But yeah, both of them have actually answered, depending on what your budget is. But you also have to put in mind that you're an early stage business and you're consulting. Maybe the best way would just be like consulting, put me through, and not like direct, like working with. There's some agencies that their fees is even what your budget may be for the influencer campaign, right? So you can consult, you can ask your friend for advice or whatnot. But I mean, there's some resources that also help you to find influencers online. Like you can just search. I've found that if you ask ChatGPT, I know this is not like an AI thing, but if you're like an early stage business and you don't have the funds to pay an agency, what you can do is to also go to ChatGPT and just ask, I'm looking for 10 lifestyle influencers within this follower, blah, 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 blah. And then it will recommend some people to you. Those people, some of them may not be active though. Put that in mind that, ChatGPT's knowledge is cut off at some point. So they may not be active, but I can guarantee like two, three, four of them may be like very active and maybe a good fit for you. So if you don't have the money to consult an agency or you're just starting out, then that may be. Also, if you're an early stage business, influencers may not be like your cup of tea. Sorry. Yeah, that.
Okay. Thank you, and I apologize for the mix-up. Thank you for correcting that and putting that out. So my last question for everyone before we round this off would be, what influencer marketing trends should marketers watch out for in the next 12 to 18 months? So let's just say 1 year. What marketing trends, influencer marketing trends, do you think is going to take the first stage for influencer marketing?
Sorry.
Alice, yeah.
Okay. The switch to communities, not like outright switch, like sole use of communities. But at the moment, we've started testing out community based, people who are not even active online, but they have like active, WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, online groups, right? We look for people like that and then work with them directly because those people have like already like a relationship. It's not like I have to create content, they have to watch the video. No. So there will be like more switch to communities. People who have communities outside of social media. Newsletters are giving us like really good results, like in recent times this year. Another thing that's giving us really good results and brands are beginning to switch more is more like influencer experiential like campaigns where like brand pay an influencer to host an event, in collaboration with the brand. We've done like webinars, we've done Twitter spaces, we've done physical events. So like they want like that direct interaction with, and even the people that use the product also want direct interaction with the brand also. It's no longer okay, you've collected money, you're not promoting a product. It's not like, oh, can we see the people behind the product? Can we understand what people are trying to sell? Can we trust you, right? So in recent times like this year, from like late last year till now, we've noticed that groups have actually been doing amazing. Communities outside of social media, newsletters have been working, events have been doing amazing for us, like webinars, Twitter spaces, like Instagram lives. We're not looking for like things outside of like the feed that you don't it does not necessarily have to be content that lives forever. It can just be like events or activities like that. So I think like more of that will be happening in like the 12 to 18 months, right? More community based influencer marketing. Yeah, that's from what we've been testing so far and what we've been seeing so far. more use of people that people can just, oh, I trust you, I see you, I want to buy from you, literally.
Okay, thank you, Alice. Thank you so much. B, do you want to go next?
Yeah. So in our experience, what we have seen, or what we have worked on, and that has worked out well, and we think we do more, and other people will do more. Like Alice said, is experiential, influencer marketing, in the sense of event collaborations. So what we have done are, watch parties where, an influencer, hosts some of his community or whatever, at a certain location, maybe to watch, an Arsenal match, or, because again, there are communities for these things. There's an Arsenal community, there's a Chelsea community, there's all of that, and there's certain influencers that that have quite a lot of influence in those communities. In fact, we've done collaborations as crazy as flying a couple of people to watch matches at Chelsea, because we have collaborations with Chelsea, Newcastle, Southampton, and a couple of others, right? So we've had those kind of collaborations as well, and they've worked out really nicely. Another thing that we're testing out right now are AI influencers and faceless accounts, right? So currently there's a trend, and I think that it will come into Africa, pretty big and pretty soon, where people are now having faceless accounts that just have a voice behind them, they describe certain things depending on the niche they're in, maybe commentary on, a football match, or commentary on something, or depending on whatever niche it is. As a matter of fact, I think there's a current AI influencer that's pretty popular on IG. I think she has close to like about 5 million influencers now. It's just basically code written by someone, and then built and all that. And I think that that's something that is going to be a thing soon, because there are people that you know have the potential to be influencers, but because they're introverts, they don't want their face out there, but they have a lot of ideas that people will find fascinating, a lot of ideas that people will want to galvanize around. And I think that that's something to look out for in the next 1 to 2 years.
Okay, thank you so much, B. Angela, I'll have you last.
All right. So I think in addition to that, two trends that I've been really curious about lately are creator-led product collaborations, right? And then, Pan-African slash diaspora collaboration. So I'll start with like creator-led product collaboration. So one thing I've seen recently is that the influencer to founder pipeline is really heating up. So I think globally, like 1 in 4 Gen Z creators right now say they want to be co-creators with brands, and they want to. They are launching their own thing. They're doing their own thing. Last year, Linda Farrow did a collab with Kika, right? Their collab shows that like a luxury fashion brand can tap into like local creator equity and still stay premium. And by the way, that collaboration sold out on pre-order, right? And so it's not just about doing ads anymore. Think joint ventures, right? Brand plus creator, right? So think of them like a partner or slash co-founders. I'm really curious about that, even like here as well. And also because like personalization is also really big. And I think that's what MB was trying to mention with experiential marketing as well, right? But think personalization as well in terms of like curated products, right? Or like special collections. See the way Barbie would launch like a specific set of like do you understand how that kind of personalization, or like an American doll of of a particular influencer. So imagine cascading that further down into the kind of brands that we have here as well. I think another thing is more and more creators are becoming bridges, right, across like African countries. So I'm seeing a lot of out of Nigeria to other places, right? Especially because like we're in like a global world right now, right? So partnerships slash collaborations are becoming better, right? Shalom Black, beauty creator, what to Bereni for a white wedding. Might have seemed subtle, but if you're like really attentive to fashion, you would understand that like that is another level. She wore it for a white wedding, right? That's like Lagos meets Los Angeles, right? Majimbo went from posting that's Elsa Majimbo went from posting IG videos in Nairobi to fronting Valentino's campaign. She's not a beauty influencer, she's not a fashion girl, but that's like cultural currency. She was literally that campaign. So really what I would say is the future that I see right now is co-created and deeply local. So the brands that would win would be the brands that are leaning into culture and not just clouds.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. It was really amazing hearing from all of you, and it was interesting being your moderator for this session. Dara will be taking over now. And thank you, Dara. Thank you, Growth Hackers Africa, for giving us the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you, Anjola. Thank you, Alice. And thank you, Billy, for responding to my questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Solua, for the amazing session. I just want to really appreciate all our speakers from Angela to Alice to Biyi for accepting our invite. I think I remember when I was trying to like send invites to everybody, I was like, with the people I want to bring, I'm not sure that I can even pull these guys, right? As I sent invites, I know I've always wanted to have, and I say this almost on all our sessions, but I've always wanted to have Alice on the session ever since I worked with her back in 2020, right? Right. I've always wanted to like have Alice on the station because the way she actually handled the influencer campaign then was different from how people like how I was used to it, right? I've not met B physically, but I've had I've had him on my WhatsApp for a while, right? I think for over 3, 4 years now, and I've always said that if I'm going to have any influencer marketing session, I'm definitely bringing him to speak, right? I met Angela through I was able to interact with Angela through a friend of mine who I respect a lot. I respect talking Olagoke, right? And he basically spoke highly of her, and well, she delivered flawlessly today. And I just want to appreciate everyone for accepting our invite. I think we have had multiple comments as regards this lineup. People that know the whole issue in the whole industry. Like when they saw this lineup, they're like, "This is solid. This is super solid." And it's surprising that, and I'm super grateful that we're able to like do this and have this session as flawless as flawless as it has been. And then special thanks to Stolua for you know guiding the conversation and also like contributing our own. Because I know for you to like have this conversation, the way it has had, the way it has been had, and how it has been, it only takes someone who's also a master at it to be able to like guide on that straight. So thank you guys, thank you so much for joining in, for being a part of this, for speaking and sharing your knowledge free. All right, and to all our attendees, all our audience who also have joined in, thank you so much for staying true to now. If you are interested in speaking to any of the speakers or like following up, most of the speakers, if not all, I think all our speakers basically have their own like have their agency. Yes, Harris has Creative Agora, B has um Tudors Digital, right? Angela has IGGB, right? So basically, if you want to work with them, right, definitely you should work with them. If you are looking to do any influencer marketing campaign, these are the people you should work to. These are the people you should work with. These are the people that can give you, the best value for your results, right? I was, as just to mention also, as Alice and Angela were talking about how they, measure results. I was like, I wish you guys are the ones running campaigns for every single person, right, in the industry, because you mentioning that you're tracking up to number of UK residents that are making their first transaction above like £150 or something. That's like some level of detail and granularity that most agencies don't even consider. Everybody just wants, as long as they have like the vanity metrics popping up, right? That's good. But once again, if you want to connect with our speakers, the guys will just show it on the screen. So you can connect with Angela, you can connect with Alice, you can connect with B, right, through their contact details that will show on the screen. Tracy can just help with displaying the contact details on how to contact our speakers. And moving on to speak about the next topic, right? This is part of a series of basically we call it pillar of growth series. They are basically the different channels, the different strategies that the top companies in Africa have explored to be able to drive growth for their startups and their product-led companies in the last decade. Right, we've had a couple of series, a couple of topics treated and channels treated in the series so far. Right, and this is the sixth session. Right, next month, sometime next month, we're going to be going and dealing with the next section, which is speaking to beyond the internet, how to leverage traditional media, right? And all these sections in the series has been brought to you by GrowthHackers Africa. GrowthHackers Africa is our community of growth operators, health stage and growth stage operators within Africa who are driving key business results in their different areas, right? And so if you want to be able to join GrowthHackers Africa, a link will just show on your screen, bit.ly/sign up to GHA, right? You can join the community and join the conversations. We have these conversations, even much more going on within the community itself, right? And as I mentioned, the next month, we're going to be taking this further and we're going to be speaking to beyond the internet, scaling beyond the internet, which is how to leverage traditional media to be able to like drive growth, drive customer acquisition, and drive key results for your own companies, right, and your own product-led startups, right? And so, till next time, till June 21st, 2025, keep being amazing, keep being awesome, and we'll talk to you then. If you want to join the community, don't forget that you can basically just go to bit.ly like sign up to JJ. And if you want to also connect with our speakers, they are showing their different handles are showing on your screen. Thank you guys for such an awesome session and do enjoy the rest of your evening.